So when I started the talk, I didn't want to stand up here and just talk what to eat, fruits, vegetables. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I wanted to focus on what I am asked quite often when I meet with a new patient or with the physicians or the team. When a cancer diagnosis, you're bombarded with information from the internet, from friends, from the neighbor down the street you've never met, and everyone decides they're an expert. So we're going to go through a little of the top questions, a little bit on supplements, and then I want to kind of go where we can safely find information. I could spend 24 hours talking about supplements and bad diets, couldn't I? We're not going to do that. My first topic will be sugar. Everyone wants to hear that sugar feeds cancer. I need to reduce my sugar. My first question is, what is your definition of sugar? So is it apple? Is it sugar that you put in your coffee, bread, pasta? Sugar ultimately is a carbohydrate, which does become glucose. All of our cells in our body use glucose for energy. That includes our healthy and the cancer cells. The question is, if we deprive ourselves of all our glucose, we're depriving our healthy cells, which includes our brain. And the brain is only uses glucose for energy. So one thing I say, I break it down to what sugar is and not avoiding all carbohydrates and glucose. And if you avoid all sugar, glucose, your body needs that glucose. It needs the energy, so it will eventually find a way to break it down, as you can see. So that's what I educate on, making better choices. We'll get to that. Stress. So patients, when they follow a strict diet, they're constantly worried about, I can't eat this bread, I can't eat this fruit. That causes stress. Stress causes inflammation. We just heard a lot about inflammation. It also reduces the immune system. So we want to cut down that stress of following that strict diet of avoiding everything, of not being able to go out with family and friends, eat a bagel. The more question is insulin. So we've heard of the word insulin, and that is a hormone produced in response to intake of a carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are your breads, pastas, rice. I think we all know that. It also is in fruits, a little bit in vegetables, and dairy, and milk, and yogurt. So when someone is avoiding sugar, they're watching the sugar, they look at the food label, and they'll see grams of sugar. You also have grams of carbohydrate. So, for example, if you have a glass of milk, it's going to have sugar because it is a carbohydrate that is naturally. What you really should do, instead of focusing always on the sugar grams, you can look at the carbs, but look at the ingredients. That will tell you what is added sugar, whether it's honey. Honey is a sugar. If it's organic, it's still a sugar. Table sugar, sucrose, I get that a lot. Or there's a lot of different terminologies they can use. So insulin, when we eat, let's say we have a banana, glucose is broken down in our bloodstream. Insulin comes in. It's the lock and key. It's going to take your glucose to the cells, which I talked about, and give you the energy. Not only energy to walk around today, your brain, we want to think. So we need the carbohydrate, we need the insulin. If we have too much carbohydrate, which is broken down to glucose, at one time, we have too much insulin release that is needed. And we don't need as much insulin. Because insulin can eventually, I talked about inflammation already, it also increases cell growth. So we want to reduce the insulin, which means we reduce the carbohydrate at one meal. So a typical American diet, we may have pasta, a big bowl of pasta, and then you add bread and maybe a sweet tea. So that's a lot of carbohydrate at one meal. So it's more of making better choices and then our portions. Everyone hates when I say portions. So choose the healthier carbohydrate foods. You've heard of healthier fats. It's the same thing with the carbs. I mentioned not all are created equal, so an apple is very different than a donut, even though they both contain sugar or carbohydrates, partly because the apple is going to have fiber and vitamins and minerals. So unprocessed or minimally processed, so whole wheat bread is processed, but it's different than processed as far as a donut. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, which I mentioned are carbohydrate sources, also contain fiber, which I mentioned, vitamins and minerals, other nutrients that those bad choice carbs don't contain. And also, the biggest recommendation I can make is combine your carbohydrate with a protein and or fat. So I talked about the breaking down to glucose, insulin comes in, we want to reduce that insulin. You have a lot of carbs at one time. It's too much work. You have those spikes in glucose. You have a protein or a fat, it slows down your digestion. So an apple with a peanut butter is a great choice. Yogurt is actually a good choice because it contains, can contain fat, protein, and carb in one serving. You can just eat the yogurt. Same thing with milk. That's why milk, if you ever heard milk, even chocolate milk is a good recovery after a run or endurance. That is why. It's a good protein and carbohydrate. That's my sugar talk. Juicing. So, again, everyone wants to juice. It is a great way to get fruits and vegetables in a cup, and it also is a great way to get a high number of servings. It is sometimes a good way if you don't like to eat spinach. You can throw spinach in a juice, and you may drink it that way. So with a variety of mixing and matching your fruits and vegetables. But juicing can add a lot of calories, and unless you're losing weight, we don't want someone to gain weight, especially by juicing and getting, it takes a lot of carrots to make a juice, different than you couldn't eat the amount that you would have to juice. And I've had patients that juice quite a bit, and they are orange. But you got to, we want to watch our calorie intake too. Also, you can miss your fiber intake. So we need fiber. It's going to slow down the digestion. It's good for our GI system, and you're going to miss that a lot in juicing. Also, chewing. There's a thing with chewing. It breaks down our food. So I usually recommend juicing is okay in addition to eating your fruits and vegetables. And also the portion. Add more vegetables. That's going to kind of give you the more punch as far as vitamins and minerals and not all fruits. And then the protein. So we just talked about combining your foods with protein. So juicing is okay, but not as your sole source intake of fruits and vegetables. It can be in combination in addition to eating and chewing your fruits and vegetables. Variety. I just talked about somebody that was orange. That's all he juiced. So you get variety. Let's use the juice as a way to incorporate maybe vegetables that you don't want to eat or know how to cook. A lot of it is learning how to cook your vegetables in a way that you like. Brussels sprouts, for example, people will turn their nose up and look at me like I'm crazy, but I have made Brussels sprouts and I swear people were like, that is delicious. Promise. I don't have a slide for this, but raw food diet. I get questions on raw food diet. Partly, I won't name names, but certain celebrities like to focus on that. Raw food diet can also be vegan, which is no animals. Raw food diet, there is no evidence that raw food diet is beneficial not only for cancer, but any anti-inflammation. You actually have benefit of doing a variety of raw versus cooked fruits and vegetables because some nutrients are better absorbed when they're cooked. For example, carrots, actually you get a little bit more beta-carotene and vitamin A with it cooked. So with raw food, I never recommend that. Also, I definitely don't recommend raw meats if someone were to choosing that. But that kind of goes along with the juicing. All right, organic foods. So unfortunately, with nutrition, well, good and bad, with nutrition it's very hard to study. And that's why I think some people get frustrated with information they receive or what the news reports. And this goes along with organic because there's so much different information. It is believed to be healthier. As you can see from the bottom, their study results have not proven that. There are studies that say they're the same. There are studies that say, okay, well, maybe organic carrots are a little bit more nutritious than conventional carrots. But it's just because it's organic, as far as the vitamin, mineral, fiber, nutrition, it is not, doesn't give you more improved nutrition. The potential benefit would be a personal reason. Maybe when we want to reduce our exposure to pesticides, whether for our personal benefit or even the farmers, the environment. There's a lot of mislabeling of what we think is organic. For example, I listed here just because it says natural. You've all probably seen natural Cheetos. It doesn't mean that it's beneficial for you because it's organic, hormone-free, free range. And just quickly, as far as certain things like free range, for example, like I said, doesn't mean organic. It just means that chicken spend a little bit more time, but it doesn't mean they're roaming around all over. So you just have to be careful of labels, and I'm not even going to talk about GMOs. All right, so again, there's no evidence to support that following organic diet has better results. It is a personal decision as far as if you want to follow it. Partly, it is more expensive, obviously, and part of the expense is cost and demand. So if more of us did choose organic, the prices could go down. It does spoil quicker, so as far as we don't want to spend the money on organic and then lose as far as how fresh it is. But I never, ever want someone to choose organic and spend a lot of money and then eat less fruits and vegetables. If that's the reason, you need to do conventional. So if you're going to reduce your amount of fruits and vegetables just because of the expense, that's not a good idea. Obviously, doing local farmers markets are great choices too. There is, I'm sure everyone's heard of the Dirty Dozen. Now it's actually 15 that you can look at what fruit or vegetable has a higher pesticide count and maybe make those choices and then buy the less numbers in conventional. All right, so multivitamins is Dr. Lawson's favorite topic because everyone wants to take a multivitamin or a supplement. And it's not for everyone. You don't need to just take a vitamin to make you healthy. There's, again, different studies that say there's benefit of living longer, maybe better memory. But it's very inconclusive, and the goal is you want to get those nutrients from your food. Partly, I mentioned fiber. You're not going to get fiber from a supplement or multivitamin. So if most individuals, if they have a good variety in their diet and well balanced, they do not need a multivitamin. But someone may have, they may avoid certain foods or are malnourished. Some of the patients during treatment are not having a well-balanced diet. And if we know they're deficient in a certain nutrient. So it's something that not everyone needs to take. It's not recommended. The other thing with multivitamins, it used to be the standard, you have a Centrum, one a day, you need 100% or less of certain vitamins and minerals. But now we have so many mega vitamins and everything has to be more, so you have 500 or more % of a certain vitamin, and it's just not needed. So that's the problem with the industry is everything has to be bigger and better. Everyone wants something to take quickly. All right, so again, I told you I could talk about supplements. I'm just going to try to highlight some popular ones. Vitamin D, the benefit is for your bones and immune function. You can see what's recommended. I always, before I recommend a supplement, I want to know if their level's been checked because that helps guide whether they even need a supplement, how much of a supplement, and then I'll go through their diet. If they feel like they're not getting high vitamin D foods, maybe they do. Also, we're not in the sun as much, so that is the best place to get our vitamin D. But and then again, evidence is very inconsistent. There's some good research specifically with colon cancer, but right now we're not at a place we can just recommend everyone taking a vitamin D supplement just because. Turmeric. I said we can't do sunlight. Let's get out in the sun. Turmeric. Everyone knows of turmeric. The active ingredient is curcumin. That's the curry. That's what makes it yellow. And the benefit is it decreases your inflammation, which we just keep hearing about. There is some good research, but again, we don't have good evidence as far as across the board should everyone take, how much, the dose. So right now, I recommend adding it in your diet, not necessarily taking a supplement. I mean, even people that have chronic inflammation, running injuries, hip, knee, they're taking it to reduce that inflammation. It is better absorbed with fat and black pepper, which may seem odd, but increasing the absorption. Green tea, there's actually evidence on taking green tea for chemo prevention, whether they have maybe not a cancerous growth, but whether that's drinking the green tea, but you can also take a supplement. I recommend, obviously, drinking green tea. Doesn't mean 10 cups a day. There are some chemotherapies and medications that do interact with green tea, so you want to definitely discuss with your team. So what do we eat? Oh, the good old boring plant-based diet. That does not mean you have to become a vegetarian and absolutely does not mean a vegan. It just means majority of your plate should contain plants. which is fruits, vegetables, the whole grains. Minimally processed, I talked about too. Nuts, again, that's a great protein source if you're reducing your red meat intake. So the plants, vitamins, minerals, fiber, you've heard me repeat multiple times. Red meat, pork is a red meat. They've actually changed their slogan. And then processed meats, which are bacon, some of the sausages, some of the luncheon meats, and then your healthy fats. We talked about healthy carbs, so make those healthy fat choices, as you can see listed. The fish, the good fatty fish, salmon, tuna, sardines, haddock is another one. Chia and flax seeds are good. You can use that in oatmeal, put it in soup, put it in salad. It's something you're really not going to taste. And then walnuts and almonds are good omega-3 fats as well. So, searching the internet, social media, we all know, is giving not the best advice for anything, but definitely nutrition. I'll scroll through different social media, and it's amazing what I read and people believe, and it's very frustrating. But like I said, everyone is a nutrition expert at some point. Celebrities are my favorite. Dr. Oz is not a nutrition expert. So whatever he says about anything, poop included, be careful. American Institute for Cancer Research is a great site. It's AICR.org. And what you can do is go through, they'll put walnuts and tell you what is beneficial for walnuts. They'll give you recipes, how you can prepare them, but it really breaks it down to what is research and evidence-based. I know everyone's maybe not at Winship, but at Winship we have a registered dietitian at each location that we can sit down with you individually and go through your diet, go through maybe supplements you're taking, because with the supplements we don't always know what's in that bottle. It's not regulated. So even though it may say, we don't know how much of omega-3 sometimes is actually in there or contaminated. So we can sit down and go through your diet, go through maybe supplements you're interested in taking, look for interaction. We just want everything to be safe. And there are registered dietitians, not just at Winship. You can find referrals, whether at other cancer centers or even, that is one thing you can search for online. But again, I just want to say it can be individual, because what I'm talking about obviously is very general. But we can break it down to what works for you based on the diagnosis, but also what treatment you're receiving. And I have made it.